Welcome back. He's one of the few and the proud, and he'll proclaim it right out loud. His tour of duty in South Vietnam culminated in the great battle for the city of Hue, where he and his fellow Marines retook the city, street by street, house by house, systematically crushing the NVA. He's an author and a gentleman, and not necessarily in that order. Please join me in welcoming Captain James Jason O'Neil, United States Marine Corps. Captain, welcome in.
Thank you, Robert.
Good to hear it. Have you?
A pleasure to be here. It's an honor, and this is really a good service because, quite frankly, here, it's been 50 years since Vietnam.
50 years.
That's 2 generations. And they simply haven't, been alerted, educated as to the importance of that conflict.
Absolutely.
It's a situation where even today, we're trying to contain our number one enemy, China. It's amazing. Really, things haven't really changed, but the history of the Vietnam conflict is one where everybody in society, every American should learn. And thanks to your service, we're getting it done.
Amen. Amen.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm afraid we haven't learned too much since then.
That's a good point. Actually, probably 3 or 4 things came out of the Vietnam experience where it's really helped our country. Number one, really is racism.
Oh, yeah.
Racism. Okay? Today, it's a big hot topic. There's no racism in the foxhole.
You don't have the liberty to have it. You're all dependent on each other, right?
No, more than 1/3 of my Marines were black gentlemen who knew how to shoot. It really was an honor. The other thing that's really important is, as I quickly mentioned, China. It's not Russia that's our real problem. It's China. It's not only them militarily, but economically, socially. They're trying to infiltrate our country. We should be alerted. Your service, this video, will help others to realize, oh, that is really the case. And we need to step up our military ability to be able to combat, should we have to, the Chinese. Yeah. And we're here. I love the idea of a shot in a story. The shot's important because it's whiskey in a lounge. Well, the American Legion is not just a lounge. We are a community of service, and we always will be. We service the vets, but if you look at a website of a typical American Legion post, and there are 14,000 of them, when you look at the website, you'll see that there are maybe 24 community outreach activities. That's important.
That's helping vets.
Helping vets, helping the community. We do Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, baseball, polling place, church activities. Just it goes on and on and on. And that's one of the ways we give back. So honored to be here. Thank you so much for that kind introduction.
Absolutely. I mean every word of it. Now, the Marines have such a storied history. And I've got to ask you, because a lot of people, they've always heard Marines referred to as leathernecks. Where did that come from?
It's from really the British Marine Service, where in order to differentiate the troops from the officers, they did really 2 things. They had a leather neck in order to upright their head and be respectful. And then on the caps, there would be a flying cross on the top of the cap so that the person in the riggings could look down and see of the troops on board the ship, who was the officer and who was not. So, and this goes back to Tun Tavern in Philadelphia, 1775, I think, something like that.
November 10, 1775. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, we're still a powerful force, and that force needs to be maintained. One, because of shock capability, landing on a beach or dropping from a plane, whatever, running through a swamp. But also the discipline of youth growing up in America today. So that's
Discipline.
important.
Esprit de corps.
Esprit de corps, semper fi. You know, a Marine greets a Marine.
Always
and it's
faithful.
Always faithful. It doesn't change. You know, I'm 79 years old. It hasn't changed.
Once a captain, always a captain.
Yeah, once a Marine, always a Marine, regardless of the
Rank.
yes, regardless of the rank. Some of my best fellow Marines were senior enlisted, who saved my young sweet butt more times than I want to admit.
Got to give a gentleman's due where gentlemen's due.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I heard a rumor that you spent some time in country in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hit the pause button. Without further ado, let's take a trip back in time with Captain James Jason O'Neil, United States Marine Corps, unfiltered, unplugged, and right now.
It was a pretty easy process to become a Marine. My eyes weren't good enough to fly. I'd seen the Army. I'd seen the Navy act up in Hong Kong on Liberty. That's where my family lived. My father was an importer-exporter. And I said, well, what's left? Marine Corps. I was a 175-pound quarterback at college in Iowa. And I met a person who went through the platoon leaders class and said, hey, you ought to look into it. And before you know it, I signed up for OCS. And it was a wonderful experience. 2 summers in Quantico, Virginia. And then when you graduate from college, you get commissioned. I was fortunate enough to be the honor man of my class, and I just never looked back. I graduated from college. I said, well, this was industrial engineering and international business. And I said, well, I want to go on to graduate school. So I wrote a letter to the commandant, and the commandant agreed. Said, yeah, you got 2 years, go to graduate school. So I was lucky. I won a fellowship to go to Heidelberg in Germany, where the Max Planck Institute for Geophysics, and that's where I worked on my graduate degree. I came back to Denver because they had an international school with an MBA, and I finished there, and basically within a month, the Marine Corps said, okay, you're now going on active duty. And so I went to Camp Lejeune. Camp Lejeune was a supply officers course, and that was really, the supply officer in the Marine Corps is really a misnomer for, professional thief. In other words, the ability to steal from the other services and hold everything together with baling wire. And I learned my lessons well. And particularly since my first assignment was with 7th Motors in the 2nd Battalion in Da Nang. And so you learn to keep the trucks flowing because the trucks were convoys. And so as a supply officer, I really essentially became a convoy commander, moving materials out of Da Nang north to the fire zones, to Quang Tri, Hue, and ultimately Dong Ha. And Dong Ha is where I spent 13 months of my station in Vietnam. And so fascinating. My Christian name is Jim James, but my campaign manager in college said, Jimmy can't win, but your initials are JCON. You're now Jason. And I won the election, and it stuck with me ever since. And I've been blessed to write 14 books with the author's name of Jason O'Neil. And some of them are politically oriented, but most of them are sci-fi with an anti-gravity device. And I combine the two. It's been a lot of fun and worthwhile, a real activity in retirement. From the Marine Corps, you never retire. Here I am at an American Legion post, serving Marines in all the services with many outreach services to help them survive in the community. And
Post commander.
yes, yeah, 4 years as post commander. Now I'm the vice commander. The idea for me is community outreach. And this particular post, one of the largest in the world, it's a Navy town, Annapolis. We have 24 outreach activities from everything from baseball to oratory to Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. We do charity races. We do all sorts of feasts for the community. And we run the bingo in our polling place. So it goes on and on. We really are a community asset and take our role very seriously. It's been a real delight, and so I'm glad to meet you and to talk about well, the Marine Corps and Vietnam in general. Couldn't be more poignant today as we see the helicopters lifting off of the embassy in Kabul. That's exactly what happened in Saigon. One of my roles here at the command, as a commander, has been outreach activity. And so what I've done over the last 2 years is give speeches at colleges and high schools and even middle schools in the history classes because the teachers asked me to say, hey, what's all Vietnam all about? We don't have good books about it, and these students don't know a thing about it. So what I've done is I prepared a little Vietnam personal perspective talking paper, and I walk the students through it and answer questions about, hey, what really happened in Vietnam? What it comes down to is lessons learned. Yeah, lessons learned are fundamental. Vietnam was an interesting experience for me. I lost 12 pounds in the first 48 hours. Yeah, just sweating under battle and the hot conditions of being involved. Never gained it back. Lucky me, never gained it back. Yeah, here I was, a strapping college quarterback, and boy, I tell you, the Marine Corps taught me well, but the rigors of war in a jungle environment, it just saps you, changes your body.